In order to use JupyCanvas, the user has to create an account by choosing a username that is not already used and consisting of at least 8 characters and a password of at least 8 characters. Once logged in, the main page displays the list of notebooks created by the user. Now I will create a folder that I will name, for instance, My Folder 1, in which I'll create my notebook. Here is how it looks like when having multiple notebooks created. The user can switch between the list or cards layout as preferred, and can rename the notebooks as for the folders. For instance, I am renaming this one My Notebook. When clicking on a notebook, the canvas opens in a new tab. By default, it has one frame created with a code cell inside. The frame refers to a separate kernel. Code cells that belong to a specific kernel can be freely moved around within the frame, and the kernel frames can be also freely moved around on the canvas. Kernel frames can be dragged and dropped from the sidebar, and they can contain infinite numbers of code blocks, which can also be created by dragging and dropping the component from the sidebar. Later, I will explain the role of code cell's position within a kernel frame, but one important thing to note now is that the code cells can be detached from a kernel to be moved to another. In order to write some code, click on the body of the code cell and run it by clicking on the green play button. The output cell is created with an arrow attaching it to the code cell. It is also possible to run all the code cells within a kernel frame using the Run All button in the toolbar on top of the frames. As in classical Jupyter notebooks, it is possible in JupyCanvas to create a markdown cells, of which the content is rendered when leaving the text area or clicking on the green play button. The UI allows collapsing the kernel frames to have a bit of more control on the space available on the canvas, and the kernels can be renamed in order to recognize them when collapsed and to efficiently use the multiple available navigation tools such as the breadcrumb on top, the bookmarking feature, and the node search floating panel, which allows to rapidly jump from a node to another. Now I will show you a simple example of how to use JupyCanvas for a basic data science task. In this kernel, I have created 2 code cells, one that installs the 2 packages and another that imports them. When you run all the code cells at once using the Run All button, the execution order depends on their position on the canvas. By default, JupyCanvas runs cells from top to bottom and within each row from left to right. A key feature of JupyCanvas is branching out. Now we are using it in order to inherit the state of the parent kernel in a child to which all the packages that are installed and imported in the code cells of the parent will be copied. The state of the kernel can be checked by clicking on this info icon on the top right, where we can see all the installed packages. The child kernel has in addition the information about the state of the parent. While the childs are continuously inheriting any changes of state of the parent, this can be stopped by clicking on the scissors icon on the linking arrow. And to resume the flow of state inheritance, it is needed to click on the linking icon. To this child kernel, I am going to attach a code cell containing simple code that initializes a data frame of users from different departments, along with their ages and scores. I am going to name the code cell Data Setup and name its container kernel frame simply Data. To visualize the data frame, we can run the code and the output node will be generated. Clicking on the centering button of the Canvas tooltip can help centering the kernels on the canvas for a better overview. Now I will show a more interesting use case of the branching out feature. This created kernel frame has a code cell that overwrites the main data frame with one that aggregates the data by averaging the ages and scores per department. While we did overwrite the DF data frame, due to context isolation across non-directly connected kernels, we do not have to worry much about that because we can still use the original data frame by branching out again from the data kernel frame and proceed with a different analysis without code breaking. In this case, for example, we are looking for the top performer employees across departments. When being on a specific branch, the run all feature allows running the whole branch from the start. Kernels of a branch run sequentially, and the code cells within them run based on their positions within the frames, as explained earlier. The running order of the code cells can be seen when hovering over the Run All button. If, for example, we are not planning to modify anything in the data setup or imported packages any soon, we can collapse those kernels to spare some space on the canvas. This can be also for any other kernel frame which is not needed to be fully expanded. The side panel contains other features such as enabling the autosave mode or going back to the main file explorer page. Clicking on these available info buttons starts an interactive tour that can help exploring the features available on the main page or the Canvas page.